here for CAA football, the Blitz, as we continue.
And he may go the distance. Terrence
You're going to put yourself in a situation and win a lot of football games.
Week number 8 in the CAA football season is upon us. I'm Bobby Broyles along with Scott Meyer. Scott, we are getting late into the season, and that's when a lot of rivalry games start up, which brings us to this weekend in Orono, where two teams meet for the 100th time in their history. Probably one of the best rivalries in all of college football that no one talks about, as the New Hampshire Wildcats take on the Maine Black Bears for the Bryce Cowell Musket. Before we break down this matchup, let's talk about this rivalry, the tradition and history between these two teams.
Yeah, obviously it dates back 100 times being played, but take a look at most recent matchups, and it even goes back to Coach Cosgrove at Maine and Coach McDonald at New Hampshire playing against each other in this matchup. Over the last couple years, yeah, maybe a bit lopsided in terms of the outcome, but all of those games been close. Normally, when you think about this game, though, it's a cold weather game. A couple years back, played in a blizzard. But that is one of those things where this thing takes on a whole new meaning. They're playing for a musket, and if you take a look at that prize, it's a musket. It's one of those things that these guys cherish to put it in their locker rooms after a win.
Should be another classic matchup between these two teams Saturday, but before we break down that game, let's take one more look back at Week 7 around the league and your players of the week.
It was a shootout in Durham as the 12th-ranked New Hampshire Wildcats played host to the Richmond Spiders. First quarter, New Hampshire quarterback Andy Vallis finds an open R.J. Harris in the end zone, and the Wildcats take the quick 6-0 lead. Vallis would strike again later in the quarter as he connects with Joey Orlando, who makes an incredible grab, keeping the foot in bounds for the touchdown. New Hampshire up 13-10. Richmond looking to respond down 20-10 in the second as running back Kendall Gaskins takes the handoff and rumbles into the end zone to cut the New Hampshire lead to 3. Right before the half, Vallis would strike again for his third touchdown pass of the half, again to Harris, and the Wildcats take a 10-point lead into the locker room. Second half, this time Vallis would score on the ground as he races right up the middle of the defense from 38 yards out, and New Hampshire is in control, up 34-17. The Spiders would then rally. Quarterback Michael Strauss enters the game for an injured John Lobb, and his first pass off the bench is a 4-yard touchdown toss to Stephen Barnett, and we are all tied up at 34. After a New Hampshire turnover, it is Gaskins taking the handoff and breaks free for his second touchdown of the game, but the point after was blocked. Spiders up by 6. New Hampshire's turn to respond as running back Chris Setian reaches for the goal line and scores. UNH takes the 1-point lead. Last chance for the Spiders, down by 4. Strauss, with no time left, throws the jump ball into the end zone, and it is knocked down by the Wildcats, and New Hampshire holds on for the 44-40 win over Richmond. The William & Mary Tribe took its 2-game winning streak to Harrisonburg to take on the 4th-ranked team in the country in the JMU Dukes. First quarter, Tribe quarterback Rafael Ortiz takes the snap and heads right up the middle of the JMU defense for 22 yards for the touchdown. William & Mary up 7-0. Second quarter, this time Ortiz scores through the air as he connects with Trey McBride in the corner of the end zone. William & Mary shocking the Dukes, up 14-0. The Dukes would answer before the half as JMU quarterback Justin Thorpe rolls out and connects with his receiver Orlandis Harvey from 11 yards out. Dukes trail 14-7 at the half. Special teams would come into play coming out of intermission. Third quarter, William & Mary's Drake Kuhn back to punt, but it's blocked by Sage Harold, and the Dukes would take advantage on the very next play as running back Daquan Scott takes the carry and goes untouched into the end zone. We are all tied up at 14. Late in the game, tied at 17. Kuhn now lined up for a game-winning 31-yard field goal attempt, but it is wide left, and this game will go into overtime. Second overtime, tied at 20. JMU with the ball as it is Scott again for his second touchdown of the game, and the Dukes are up 27-20. William & Mary's turn. Ortiz rolls out, throws one up for grabs, and McBride makes the sensational grab for the touchdown. Tribe will go for 2 in the win. Ortiz, under pressure, throws it up again for McBride, but it is knocked down, and the JMU Dukes survive at home with the 27-26 double overtime victory. Offensive Player of the Week goes to Georgia State running back Donald Russell, who turned in a school record 201 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on 21 carries, while also hauling in his lone reception of the game for a 34-yard score as the Panthers pick up their first win of the season on the road at Rhode Island. Defensive Player of the Week goes to Villanova defensive back Eric Loper, who snagged an interception and recovered a fumble that led to a third-quarter score in the Wildcats' 38-14 upset of third-ranked Old Dominion. Special Teams Player of the Week goes to New Hampshire kicker and punter Mike MacArthur, who booted a second-half punt 51 yards that landed on the Richmond 1-yard line and nailed a 27-yard field goal in the final minutes to seal the 44-40 win over the Spiders. Rookie of the Week goes to Villanova quarterback John Robertson, who finished Saturday's upset win over Old Dominion with 151 yards through the air and another 189 yards on the ground for 4 total touchdowns, helping the Wildcats improve to 5-2 on the season.
We roll along to Week 8 in the 2012 CAA football season, and like we said earlier, it will be the 100th meeting between the New Hampshire Wildcats and the Maine Black Bears, a game that can be seen on the Comcast Sportsnet regional networks. Scott, a lot at stake in this one.
There is a lot at stake. I think you take a look at where New Hampshire sits in the standings right now. They're still in the hunt for the CAA championship. For Maine, I think it's a matter of consistency. They got a great game at Delaware and followed that up last week with a tough one. And I think Coach Cosgrove wants to see some sort of consistency come out of his team. They're also at that 4-loss threshold right now, and obviously one more loss and there's probably no playoffs for them. If they can win the rest of the way, there's obviously a lot at stake in that one, given the fact that if you're going to win that many games in a row, the playoff committee is going to look at you as a contender. So plenty at stake in this game.
That game will be followed by on the Comcast Sportsnet regional networks as well, with another game with playoff implications as the Jamie Dukes make the short trip to Richmond to take on the Spiders.
Yeah, and talking about rivalries, I think some might consider this a rivalry only because it's within state lines of Virginia, but certainly look for Richmond and how it's going to rebound with the loss of John Lobb and now Michael Strauss coming on board as the quarterback. Also, one thing to look at, storyline that maybe some people touch on, is the return of Latrell Scott to Richmond, now a coach at James Madison. But more importantly, James Madison trying to stay at the top of the league and at number 2 now in the nation. Can they win and maybe hope for an Eastern Washington loss, maybe give the CAA a number 1 team again?
Then later Saturday night, it will be the rematch of last year's thriller as the Old Dominion Monarchs, looking to bounce back after their first loss of the season to Villanova last weekend, will travel north to take on the Towson Tigers.
Yeah, you look back at that matchup. Grant Enders to Tom Ryan on a 4th down play, quite literally only trying to get a 1st down on the play, but Tom Ryan drags a handful of Monarchs into the end zone, and the rest is history. Towson kind of uses that as a springboard to get them into the playoffs last year. But more importantly, I think you look at this and what Villanova was able to do to Old Dominion last week, almost as a blueprint now in terms of ball control offenses in Towson, the way that they approach this game. Certainly a humbling loss for Old Dominion. Something to look forward to in terms of Terrence West. Can they kind of control that ball, keep Old Dominion off the field in terms of offense, and maybe grind out a win?
Now here's a look at the rest of this Saturday's lineup around CAA football. Fans, remember to log on to CAAfootball.com for all the latest information going on around the league. For Scott Meyer, I'm Bobby Broyles. Enjoy the game Saturday. You're watching The Blitz.